Gentlemen, we have Matt Valenti.
Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to catching up with you.
Oh, it's great to hear from you, my friend. As you know, the IOC and FILA, with all the FILA stuff going on with FILA, wrestling has been dropped from 2020. Where were you when you got the news?
Unfortunately, I had just woken up to a whole bunch of phone calls and text messages from people in utter disbelief. And, of course, I was as shocked as I think everybody else in the wrestling community was to hear the news.
What were your initial thoughts?
Honestly, I didn't believe it. I thought maybe it was a hoax. I thought people were joking around and, some kind of, just some scam that somebody was running to try and get a rise out of the wrestling community. And once it started to really set in, that was pretty disappointing.
That's a really, really bad joke to be playing with the huge wrestling community that the United States has. We have over 2 million active wrestlers, believe it or not.
Yeah, we have a pretty impressive group here, and we got a pretty impressive group overseas as well.
With FILA also changing the rules with the new rules in place, how do you think that's going to help wrestling to the average viewer or the person who does not know much about wrestling?
Well, let me start by saying I don't think the rules are quite perfect yet, but I do think that the change is a great, great change for the sport. I was fortunate enough to see him in action last weekend at the University World Team Trials and the FILA Cadet World Team Trials. And I was actually lucky enough to sit in the corner. I was coaching one of my guys. The 6-minute match ended, and the score was 17-17. So, it's definitely getting some more scoring going and making these matches a little more exciting.
Because the new rules are in place, do you think it's going to promote more action? Because it's not one like you don't have to lose a period. It's cumulative scoring again.
It is, and I think it is definitely going to promote more action. One of the things that I think you saw with wrestlers in the old rules was they were afraid to make a mistake in that 2-minute period. So wrestling kind of tended to get uptight. So instead of making a mistake and doing something a little bit stupid and giving up that point, now there's less of a punishment for taking a risk and really starting to attack. And I think you're starting to see guys attack more and take more chances, because being down 4 points or 5 points in the first period doesn't mean you're going to lose the period. It means you can still come back, and obviously for Americans, wrestling 6 minutes is a nice little benefit for us.
Because of how the college is set up, do you think that favors or helps us as U.S. athletes at all, or no, or it doesn't really matter?
I think it may help us initially. I'm sure these countries around the world will adjust pretty quickly. I can't imagine these Russians and Iranians and Azerbaijanis and Japanese losing matches because they're out of shape. They may have to adjust their training a little bit, and we may have a slight edge for the first few months. But I think it'll even out pretty quickly.
With the Olympics being the grandest stage of them all, and our sport is considered amateur, what do you think is just going on through all these other countries that wrestling is their national sport?
I think you're seeing it more in these countries that have had success, like Russia and like Iran, where there's a little bit more of an outcry. And then the smaller countries, with a little bit lesser wrestling following, like India and Japan, who are still very good around the world, are really starting to step up to the plate and realize how big of an impact this will have for them. On the Greco-Roman side, you're getting countries like Georgia and Egypt who have medalists, and that's the only sport some of those countries medal in. Turkey, for example, is another good one. You're seeing these countries realize that a sport where they've been able to medal in the past might be gone, and it's a point of pride for these countries. And, they don't want to lose that opportunity to bring back medals and represent their countries either.
Another thing that I've been noticing, talking to a lot of different people and stuff that I've been reading, what do you think this is going to do to the youth?
I think that's a really hard thing to project. Obviously, winning an Olympic gold medal is the ultimate for our sport. One of the things that I think we have in the U.S. that kind of differentiates us from these other countries is folk style and collegiate wrestling. The impact that worst case scenario would have on college wrestling. I don't know if it's going to be as bad as I think we originally thought, but it definitely doesn't help our case. So I would hope that even if worst-case scenario does come, which God forbid that actually happens, I think we'll still be okay. I still think youth wrestling will be around. It's just developed such a large following now, and it would be hard to really just kind of disappear.
People have told me many times that wrestling has changed their lives and made them into this or that. What has wrestling done for you personally?
I mean, wrestling is my life, and it has been for a long time. I'm part of a wrestling family. My dad wrestled at Princeton. My mom grew up in a family of wrestlers, and she was probably the toughest out of all of them. She didn't actually wrestle, but she just beat up on her older brothers. Both of my younger brothers wrestled. My youngest brother was an All-American at UVA. My middle brother wrestled with me at Penn. So wrestling's in my blood. It's part of my family, a very big part of my family. For me, I mean, being a 5-foot-something, and not much, but 5'2", 5'3" little guy, I didn't have a whole lot of options. And wrestling was a sport that I really started to pick up and love. I wasn't pushed into it. I was just kind of introduced to it and went from there. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to an Ivy League school and get an Ivy League degree. And, I graduated from Penn. I have a great Ivy League degree in my pocket, and I couldn't have done that without wrestling. I'm working on a master's right now, and I'm actually looking at potentially getting a PhD in the near future. And none of that would be possible without wrestling. So for me, it's really been a driving force in my life, and I wouldn't be where I am today and where I'm going in the future without the sport.
That's pretty amazing to hear. I know me and myself being an athlete, I would who knows where I'd be. Gave me everything that I am, drive, determination, and everything else. Going back to the youth, how like a lot of kids that I've talked to that I've actually coached say, well, since the games have been dropped from a later time, why should I continue wrestle? I'll just go do something else. And I'm like, we don't know that yet, that they're 100% eliminated. It does hurt and sting a little bit. How can you reignite or keep kids into believing to stick with wrestling?
Well, all the reasons that we're arguing to keep wrestling in the Olympics are the reasons that we should keep wrestling no matter what. I mean, it's the values and the lessons that you learn from the sport that whether we have that Olympic gold out there or not, those lessons and values are still there. The discipline that you're going to learn, the work ethic that you're going to learn, all those incredible things that you learn from this sport. You're still going to learn those things as a youth wrestler and as a high school wrestler and as a college wrestler. Even if, we do face that worst case scenario, you still learn those lessons. It doesn't go away. You still are going to have to work your butt off. You're still going to have to battle and push yourself to be one of the best if that's what you want to do. And those things, those aspects don't go away. That part of the sport will transcend Olympic gold medals, whether they exist for us or not.
Do you feel like I've heard some speculations that Title IX reared its ugly head in a decision to cutting wrestling from 2020? What do you feel about that?
I don't think we can look at Title IX as a factor for Olympic wrestling because that's a U.S. thing. If we're looking at college programs and we want to kind of start pointing our finger that way, we could probably make some arguments. But for international wrestling, Title IX really doesn't have any relevance to this whole argument. Now, if Olympic wrestling does get dropped, it could come rear its head in the U.S. around college programs, which obviously would not be a good thing. And we definitely don't want that to pop up. And I think our best counter is our female counterparts who are wrestling now. Anybody who's watched some of our top girls wrestle, they're freaking awesome. They're fun to watch. You watch them at the Olympic level, the world level, national level. These girls are good and they're getting tough. And I really think that the future of our sport depends on them and cultivating that female wrestling, both in the country and around the world.
We have an email coming in from Max out of Iowa. The last time you competed was in the Olympic trials, and yet you were nowhere to be seen. Are you done?
Yeah, my competitive career is done. I do work out every day. I'm wrestling with my team all the time, but competitively, I'm I'm moving on to hopefully some brighter things in my future, and I'm hoping to help the sport in other ways other than being a competitor. So, yeah, unfortunately, I am retired. I guess this is my official way of leaving my shoes on the mat right here. So.
Another thing, we have another question coming in from Roger out in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
What he likes wrestling, enjoys watching it, but he feels that he is just one person, and seeing all the social media, what can one person really do? Will one vote or one email really make the difference?
Well, no. One vote and one person, no. But you're just one of many. And as we're seeing with all this outpouring of support that we have right now around the world, and especially in the U.S. right now, one vote plus one vote from your friend, plus one vote from your friend's friend, those add up. And the little things that we've been doing that may not seem that significant, the silly things that we're doing on the social media and jumping on Twitter and getting on the Facebook pages and, FILA finally starting a Twitter feed and a Facebook page and getting involved in all this modern technology, it's starting to make a difference. The day that the International Olympic Committee voted to keep those three sports going forward, there was a push and a charge led by Tim Foley to gain followers for FILA's Twitter page. And in 24 hours, we got over 10,000 followers. And while that may not seem like that much, the International Olympic Committee, they're going to look at those things because that's kind of the future of marketing for sports. And that's kind of the future of the Olympics it is dominated by social media now. And, these are the things that wrestling needs to do to keep themselves relevant going forward.
Don't be afraid to make a Twitter, guys. Matt Valenti has one. Matt, what is your Twitter handle, buddy?
It's Valenti 60kg. So made it when I was still competing. So don't be misled by that one. I don't weigh 60 kilograms anymore, but that is my Twitter handle.
What are you floating around at?
I'm floating around mid-40s right now, so I'm still pretty light. I work out quite a bit, and my guys keep me busy, so that weight's still down.
Don't be afraid to jump on like the keepolympicwrestling.com, sign up to be on their email page, vote, all these other things. Get wrestling back because we don't want to destroy a lot of dreams for people.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
If you could tell the youth one thing right now who are listening in, what would it be?
My thing right now is keep telling people how much this sport means to you. Don't knock down these other sports. Every sport, we're competing against right now, baseball, softball, and squash, I actually think they're great sports. And I think it's an unfortunate situation that they're in where they're up against us. But don't knock down these other sports. Build up wrestling and help people understand how important this sport is and what it's done for you and what you hope it can do for you in the future. These younger votes, our younger generation out there right now, you're just as important. You're just as important in this movement for us as our members of the Save the Olympic Committee board who are in there making our presentation. Because you are the future of the sport, and we need the support from everybody out there.
Matt, you've been very, very inspirational. Is there anything else you want to say out there to all our listeners out there?
I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. It's an absolute pleasure to be on here and be able to talk to you and share some of my thoughts on sport. And I look forward to seeing wrestling in 2020. So
we have a little
keep cheering sport on.
We have a little contest going. I like to do a lot of giveaways for all the people listening in. You beat an Olympic bronze medalist for one of your NCAA titles. Be the fifth person to email me, and you'll win a pair of Cradle Gear wrestling shorts. Do you remember that match, Matt?
What was that?
You remember your match, who you beat an Olympic bronze medalist back in the NCAAs?